Hi friends, today we will ask chatgpt about the possibility of a person changing his sex. Let's see what he says about it. What is the difference between sex and gender?
The difference between sex and gender lies in their biological and social meanings. Sex refers to the biological characteristics of a person, such as chromosomes, hormones, reproductive organs, and genitalia. It typically classifies people as male, female, or intersex, based on these physical attributes. Gender refers to the roles, behaviors, expectations, and identities that societies and cultures ascribe to people based on their sex. It is more about how individuals experience themselves and how they are perceived in the social world. Gender can include identities such as man, woman, non-binary, genderqueer, and others. In short, sex is biological, while gender is a social and cultural construct that can vary over time and across cultures.
Give me an example of one person in history who was born with the ability to create an oocyte and seed.
There is no documented case in medical history of a human being born with the fully functional ability to both conceive, like a female, and impregnate someone else, like a male. Humans, as a species, are typically sexually dimorphic, meaning individuals are born with reproductive systems that function either for producing eggs, female, or producing sperm, male, but not both. While intersex individuals may be born with a combination of male and female reproductive traits, they do not possess fully functioning reproductive systems of both sexes. This means they cannot both create, conceive and carry a child, and seed, impregnate someone else, at the same time. In short, there has never been a known case of a person born with the complete biological ability to fulfill both male and female reproductive roles. The reference to intersex individuals is to clarify that while some people are born with a combination of male and female biological traits, they do not have the fully functional reproductive systems of both sexes. Intersex conditions involve variations in chromosomes, hormones, or reproductive anatomy that don't fit typical definitions of male or female. These variations can result in ambiguous genitalia, or a mix of male and female reproductive traits, but intersex individuals are not born with the ability to both conceive and impregnate someone else. To be clear, intersex is not a condition where a person has fully functional male and female reproductive capabilities. Intersex individuals can have traits that don't fit neatly into the binary categories of male or female, but they do not possess both reproductive functions. When I mentioned intersex, it was to acknowledge the biological complexity that exists beyond simple male or female classifications. However, this complexity does not lead to the possibility of a person being able to both create, conceive and carry a child, and seed, impregnate, simultaneously. This remains biologically impossible for humans.
What is the science of bones? And how can they know details about who the bones belong to?
The science of bones is known as osteology, a branch of anatomy that focuses on the structure and function of bones. Osteologists study the development, morphology, and pathology of bones, often to understand both individual and population characteristics. How osteologists identify bones. 1. Morphological analysis. The shape and size of bones can indicate various features, such as age, sex, and ancestry. For example, pelvis. The shape of the pelvis is a reliable indicator of biological sex, as females typically have a wider pelvis for childbirth. Skull features. Certain skull characteristics can help differentiate between male and female skulls and provide clues about ancestry. 2. Age estimation. Age can be estimated through growth plates. Examining the fusion of epiphyseal plates, growth plates, can indicate whether an individual is still growing. Dental development. The development of teeth can provide age estimates, especially in younger individuals. 3. Pathological indicators. Signs of disease or injury found on bones can provide clues about a person's health, lifestyle, and even cause of death. 4. DNA analysis. If bone samples are well preserved, genetic testing can be conducted to determine identity, familial relationships, or ancestry. This is particularly useful in forensic cases. 5. Isotopic analysis. analyzing the chemical composition of bones can provide insights into a person's diet, migration patterns, and environmental conditions. 6. Contextual evidence. The location and context in which the bones are found, e.g., burial sites, archaeological contexts, can also provide important information about the individual, such as cultural practices or historical time periods. By combining these various methods, osteologists can gather substantial information about the individual to whom the bones belonged, including aspects of their identity, lifestyle, and health.
So according to this, it doesn't matter if you identify as the other sex. When they find your bones, my sex will remain the same sex I was born with?
Yes, that's correct. Biological sex, as determined by physical characteristics such as chromosomes and reproductive anatomy, remains unchanged after death. If bones are analyzed, the biological sex identified through osteological methods will reflect the sex assigned at birth, regardless of a person's gender identity during their lifetime. Gender identity is a social and psychological concept, while biological sex is based on physical traits. Therefore, any examination of skeletal remains would provide information about the biological sex of the individual based on the characteristics of their bones.
If we could give a man the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the uterus, the cervix, and the vagina, will his body would be able to sustain a pregnancy?
Even if a man were provided with ovaries, fallopian tubes, a uterus, a cervix, and a vagina, his body would still face immense challenges in sustaining a pregnancy due to several critical factors. 1. Skeletal structure. Pelvis shape. The male pelvis is not designed to carry the weight of a growing fetus. It's narrower and more rigid compared to the female pelvis, which is naturally broader and capable of expanding during pregnancy. This fundamental difference would make it difficult, if not impossible, for a man's body to accommodate a full-term pregnancy without risking serious injury to the bones and organs. 2. Hormonal requirements. Hormones. Pregnancy requires a delicate balance of hormones like progesterone and estrogen to sustain the growth of the fetus. While a man could theoretically be given external hormones, it's unclear whether his body would respond to them in the same way as a woman's. The male body doesn't have the natural feedback loops that regulate these hormones during pregnancy, making it difficult to replicate the necessary conditions. Immune response. The body has to accept the fetus as not entirely foreign. Women's immune systems naturally adapt during pregnancy to prevent rejecting the fetus. It's uncertain how a man's immune system would handle a fetus, especially with a transplanted reproductive system, potentially leading to rejection or other immune complications. 3. Circulatory and respiratory strain. Blood flow. Pregnancy requires increased blood flow to the uterus and developing fetus. The female body naturally adjusts by increasing blood volume and cardiac output. A man's cardiovascular system would not be primed for this type of change, possibly leading to heart strain or complications related to circulation. Respiratory demand. Pregnant women experience higher oxygen demands due to the growing fetus. Men may not adapt as well to these changes, potentially leading to respiratory distress as the pregnancy progresses. 4. Space for fetal growth. Abdominal space. Although men have some abdominal space, it is not naturally designed to accommodate a growing uterus and fetus. Without the structural flexibility of a woman's body, there would likely be compression of internal organs, severe discomfort, or even damage to organs like the intestines, liver, or bladder as the fetus grows. 5. Childbirth. Delivery. Even if a man could carry a pregnancy to term, natural childbirth would be nearly impossible due to the structure of the male pelvis. A C-section would be the only feasible option, but the risks associated with such a surgery in this context would be high. 6. Psychological and social factors. The psychological strain of a man undergoing pregnancy could be significant. Additionally, there would be extensive social, ethical, and emotional challenges associated with male pregnancy, which are difficult to quantify but important to consider. Conclusion. Even with the addition of reproductive organs, a man's body is not biologically or structurally designed to sustain a pregnancy. The challenges related to skeletal structure, hormonal regulation, cardiovascular and respiratory strain, and the logistics of childbirth all point to immense obstacles that current medical science cannot yet overcome. While science fiction speculates about such possibilities, practical and biological realities suggest it is unlikely that male pregnancy could be viable.
So in the end, even if all these things, a man will not be able to sustain a natural pregnancy?
Yes, even if all the reproductive organs, ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, cervix, and vagina, were transplanted into a man, sustaining a natural pregnancy would still be highly unlikely. Here's a summary of the reasons why. 1. Anatomical and structural limitations. The male pelvis is not designed to carry a pregnancy, lacking the width and flexibility of a female pelvis that allows it to support the growing fetus and adapt during childbirth. The lack of space and risk of internal organ compression could cause serious complications as the pregnancy progresses. 2. Hormonal and immune challenges. Pregnancy requires complex hormonal regulation, e.g., estrogen and progesterone, which the male body does not naturally produce or regulate in the way a female body does. Even with external hormone treatments, the body might not respond as needed. There would also be a potential for the body's immune system to reject the transplanted uterus and even the fetus, as men do not have the natural immune adaptation mechanisms women have during pregnancy. 3. Cardiovascular and respiratory strain. A man's cardiovascular and respiratory systems are not naturally adapted to support the increased blood flow and oxygen demands of pregnancy. This could lead to dangerous complications. 4. Childbirth. Natural childbirth would not be possible due to the shape of the male pelvis. A C-section would be the only method for delivering the baby, but this presents its own set of surgical risks. 5. Current medical limitations. Uterus transplants in women are still a relatively new and experimental procedure, and male pregnancy would add multiple layers of complexity that current medical science is not yet equipped to handle. This includes the ethical, biological, and psychological aspects of such a pregnancy. Conclusion. Even with advanced medical interventions, a man's body is not naturally designed to sustain a pregnancy, and the obstacles related to anatomy, hormones, and immune function make it biologically unfeasible at this time. Thus, while there is speculation in science fiction and ongoing discussions about reproductive technology, a natural pregnancy in a man is not currently viable.
So that means there is no way a man can change his gender and become a woman in any scientific sense, and the same woman can become a man?
In a strictly biological and scientific sense, it is not possible for a man to completely change his gender to become a woman, or for a woman to completely change her gender to become a man. This is due to fundamental biological differences between males and females that cannot be fully altered by current medical technology. Here's why. 1. Chromosomal differences. Sex chromosomes are determined at birth, XX for females, XY for males. These chromosomes are present in nearly every cell of the body and cannot be changed. So, even after gender-affirming surgery or hormone treatments, a person's chromosomal sex remains the same. A man will still have XY chromosomes, and a woman will still have XX chromosomes, regardless of any physical or hormonal changes. 2. Reproductive limitations. As we discussed earlier, even with reproductive organ transplants, a man cannot sustain a pregnancy or become fully biologically female. Similarly, a woman cannot produce sperm or become biologically male in the sense of fathering children. The complex systems required for reproduction, e.g., ovaries, testes, hormonal regulation, are not interchangeable. 3. Hormonal and physical changes. Hormone therapy, estrogen for trans women, testosterone for trans men, can induce changes in secondary sexual characteristics, such as body hair, breast development, voice pitch, and fat distribution. However, these changes affect only the physical appearance and some aspects of sexual functioning, not the internal reproductive systems. While gender-affirming surgeries can alter external genitalia, they cannot fully replicate the internal anatomy or function of the opposite biological sex. For instance, a trans woman, assigned male at birth, may undergo vaginoplasty to create a vagina, but she will not have a functioning uterus, ovaries, or the ability to menstruate or carry a pregnancy. Similarly, a trans man may undergo phalloplasty to create a penis but will not produce sperm. 4th, brain structure and gender identity. Gender identity is a complex and deeply personal experience. While some research suggests subtle differences in brain structure between males and females, these do not fully account for gender identity. People who are transgender often experience a deep psychological and emotional sense of identifying as a gender different from the one they were assigned at birth. Transitioning through hormone therapy and surgery can significantly improve the quality of life for transgender individuals by aligning their physical appearance with their gender identity, but it does not result in a complete biological transformation into the opposite sex. 5. Legal and social recognition. Many societies and legal systems allow for gender change in terms of social and legal recognition, e.g., changing the gender marker on a passport or driver's license. However, this is different from a full biological change, as it pertains to how someone identifies and is recognized, rather than their biological sex. Conclusion. While medical interventions, such as hormone therapy and surgery, can significantly alter a person's appearance and physical characteristics, there is no way for a person to fully change their biological sex and become the opposite gender in a scientific sense. Biological differences such as chromosomes, reproductive functions, and skeletal structures remain.
So to all those who shout I'm a real woman or I'm a real man, what you were born with is what you will die with, and there is nothing in the world surgeries or hormones can do about it. And that's the way you should talk to these people, not the look, not what's between your legs, not even the X or Y. These are whether your body is built to bear a child or not. Or what your bones will say after you die to someone who hasn't heard of you. Have a good day and don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share.